Oh, Christ almighty. What the hell have I gotten myself into? Hello, Jacksonites, and welcome to my next King Kong review. Today I'll be looking at... Yes, I'm finally getting around to it. The 1976 remake by Dino De Laurentiis. Joining me today is the King Kong guy who, for some fucking reason, this is his all-time favorite film. BigJackFilms from BigJackFilm Studios. Say hello, Jackie boy.
Just looking at your thumbnail, I throw my coffee at you.
You may only do that once.
This is going to be quite the argument.
Well, like I said before, you may be surprised. And yes, I am drinking for the occasion. Though you don't know if this is actually soda or not.
Yeah, so, Kong 76, I personally,
Justin Tank says more like throw acid on you.
Yeah, throw acid like Harvey Dent, but you don't know anything about DC.
Two-Face.
But I was going to say, with 1976, yes, it is my favorite Kong film. It is it's probably my favorite film of all time. But on top of that, it's I would put it on par with the original in terms of good quality. And I'm not going to be the one doing this whole review. I'll let you take care of it, Nick, because I want to see what you have to say about this.
Alrighty, so before we get to the plot of the film, let's discuss our histories with the movie. I will go first. As stated before, at least I think I've stated it on my channel. I may have stated it on yours, but if I have not, and forgive me if I am repeating myself, the 1976 remake of King Kong is technically the first King Kong movie I ever saw from beginning to end. I saw it on TV when I was about 12 years old. And I'll admit, at the time, it did kind of blow me away. While the 05 version certainly really blew my socks off, the 76 remake also thoroughly entertained me when I was young. And for a long time, that was the only time I ever saw the film. Until I got my first job. Justin Tang says, my favorite Kong films. Number 1, 1933. Number 2, Skull Island. Number 3, 05. Number 4, King Kong vs. Godzilla. Number 5, 1976.
At least it made the top 5, buddy.
So yeah, when I got my first job working at a little grocery store, I would spend half of my paycheck on going to Amazon. And actually, one of the first trips on Amazon that I ever did was I bought the 76 film. Because I said to myself, you know what? I haven't seen that movie in a while, so I kind of want to... Okay, that's what I thought. Where was I? Oh yeah, I want to see that movie again, so... I bought it. It was dirt cheap. I think at the time it was like only $10. And I got it relatively soon, and I rewatched it, and... it was kind of 50-50 for me. There were things I like. Actually, there was a lot of things that I like about the film. There still are a lot of things I do like about the film, but there's just some things that killed this movie for me. So Jack, what is... what is your history with the film?
Well, when I was a kid, I grew up on a lot of movies thanks to my parents and my uncles especially, and they showed me when I was about 5. They showed me the original, and then King Kong Lives, and I thought nothing of it at the time. And then it wasn't, and then I went to visit Universal Studios Florida, and I went on the old King Kong ride, Kongfrontation, back in 98 and 2000, and I thoroughly enjoyed it, and it was a fucking blast. It had me really scared the crap out of me as a kid. And I watched 76 on and off. I had it on VHS, but it wasn't until I really started to get into Kong around the time the Peter Jackson film came out is when I really started to get into it. And just going through the entire history, I bought the Ray Morton book, which was like my Kong Bible, essentially.
Still is.
And then I went and revisited the film, and I realized, because so many people were saying it was bad, I'm like, you know what? Watching it again, it's not that bad. I think it's a film of its time. It's a film of the 70s, and I've always been a fan of 70s cinema, Star Wars, Jaws, and so on. So it ranks in there as those top 3 as some of my favorite films.
Earthquake.
And an Earthquake as well, but that didn't come till a lot later. But it sprung from a lot of the disaster movies of that era. And as time went on and I kept watching it and I kept putting it on, I started to love it more and more. Like, I started to, like...
Justin Tang says, including 70s pornos. Deep Throat.
Oh, Justin, dude, I am going to be reviewing 2 Kong pornos, and I hate every one of you because, like, you're going to make me review this shit. Of course I have to review it.
King Dong and Kinky Kong.
Yeah,
oh, God.
I hate my life. Alright, anyway, so, every time I've gone back and watched Kong 76, it just gets, for me, it gets better every time I watch it. And I know it, I've watched it so many times when I'm either at work or whether I'm doing stuff in the background. I know almost every line by heart of this film. I've analyzed every shot, every scene, and it's a gorgeous looking movie. It's a huge epic. The cast is great. Director John Gellerman gets a lot of flack for being a very angry director, but god damn can he put a good image together. Could he put some good shots together in a good movie? The score is phenomenal. The ape suit work by Rick Baker, and even though it didn't work half the time, the animatronics by Carlo Rambaldi are a very incredible effort for what they've accomplished. But I'm getting off track pretty much talking about this movie, so let's talk about the plot. Or actually, before, I don't know if we should talk about the back history of this project, essentially.
Nah, partially because I feel like we'd be here for a long time, and B, if you want to check out the backstory to Kong 76, check out Jack's videos because he goes into great detail about the backstory of Kong 76. But the short version of it is, before the 76 film came out, Kong was a big buzz at the time. The original 33 film was being played on TV multiple times. The original got re-released in the theaters a couple of times, most notable being the 1952 release, which eclipsed the original 33 release in terms of its box office by a long shot. But there were some people talking around and spreading that we think it's time that Kong got a big budget color remake. So
well, the first real studio to do that was Hammer, but RKO would have the no remakes policy, so they couldn't get the rights.
Oh yeah, that's a big clusterfuck.
It was really, honestly, it was Michael Eisner who started this whole mess. The guy, the head of Walt Disney, the Walt Disney Company in the 80s and 90s, and he had pitched the idea to both Paramount and Universal, and both went to RKO at certain times, and Universal got the verbal contract while Paramount got the papers, and in this case, it's a huge court case, but eventually what happened was that Paramount won because they had the written contract, and Universal had spent a year trying to do a remake, and it never fully got to fruition until the Peter Jackson film. So
the original title of the Universal version being The Legend of King Kong, for being set to release for 1975.
If you guys want a full review of these projects, you get essentially 2 reviews on my channel. You get a positive review, you get a negative review with a let's talk of why the movie sucks, and then you get a backstory on The Legend of King Kong. All can be found on my channel. And but that's just kind of the little backstory into it. But let's just essentially talk about the plot. It basically takes place. It's not in the 30s this time. It takes place in the present. In this case, the 1970s. And it's pretty much a beat for beat remake in a sense. It's the same kind of story.
I wouldn't say that.
But there are changes. Carl Denham is no longer. It's not a filmmaker this time. It's a guy named Fred Wilson, played by Charles Grodin, who is a oil tycoon who has discovered oil deposits on an uncharted island and figures, hey, we're in the middle of an oil crisis right now, so drill baby drill, and we'll go down there and we'll take the oil and we'll get it before like Shell or Exxon get to it, other oil companies essentially.
Yep, so before they are about to leave for this uncharted island, a man named, let's see, what's his name?
Jack Prescott.
Jack Prescott, who is a primate paleontologist, who Justin Tang asks, does this movie have a more or less forced environmental message than Godzilla vs. Hedorah? Definitely
I think Godzilla
Hedorah.
vs. Hedorah has more. Godzilla vs. Hedorah has way more.
Definitely Hedorah. I mean, it is here, but it's not shoved down your throat like it is in Hedorah. But anyway, so Jack Prescott, who is a primate paleontologist, stows away aboard the expedition's vessel called the Petrox Explorer, and he reveals himself when he warns the crew that this cloud bank that covers this uncharted island could be potentially dangerous, and it could cause some phenomenon that is unknown to the people at the time.
And he's played by the one and only, the dude, Jeff Bridges.
Oh, yes, indeed. So Wilson orders Prescott to be locked up, believing he may be some kind of corporate spy from a rival company. But while being
You lying hippie, you're from another oil company!
But while being escorted to his jail cell, Prescott spots a life raft, which, upon inspection, is found holding the unconscious, and, yeah, she is gorgeous, but she can't act worth a shit.
She's fucking hot as hell.
Dwan, played by Jessica Lange, who is our Fay Ray for this film.
And it was her first feature film, this film.
She still fucking sucks.
Yeah.
After conducting a background check on Prescott, Wilson realizes that, yeah, he is telling the truth, and he appoints Prescott as the expedition's photographer, requesting that due to him also conveniently having medical training, he be present when Dwan regains consciousness. And when she does, she states that
not as sexy as Kumi Musa, Akini, and the other Toho actresses.
I actually do think she's better than a lot of Toho actresses, but still, at least they can act.
Yeah.
Well, ish. Anyway, so when she does regain consciousness, she states she was aboard a director's yacht because she's an actress, attempting to be an actress, and which suddenly exploded somehow, which it's never really explored upon. So the Petrox Explorer arrives at the island, which in real life was the island of Kauai, where Jurassic Park was also filmed.
Great island.
Oh, yes, indeed. And the team discovers a primitive tribe of natives who live within a gigantic wall, wink wink, and the tribal chief shows an immediate interest in Dwan because, she's blonde and she's also white, and offers, like in the original, to trade several of his native women for her, and which is firmly rejected by Jack.
And also to mention, too, the native chief in this movie, I swear to God, he has the personality of a male stripper.
He does. He does.
Yeah, like he's dancing around like he's a male stripper.
It's actually kind of funny to watch, honestly.
Yeah.
So anyway, the team learns that this island does indeed contain a large amount of oil, but it is of such a low quality that it is just, it's garbage. So later that night, the natives board the ship and kidnap Dwan, again, like in the original. And they drug her and offer her as a sacrifice to the giant ape known as Kong, who in this movie, I swear he's around 60 feet in height.
He's he's been credited to be between 40, 48, and 50 feet.
He's certainly bigger than 33, that's for sure.
Oh, hell yeah.
So Kong frees Dwan and retreats into the depths of the island. Although, at first, he is scary upon his first appearance, Kong turns out to be kind of soft-hearted, and he becomes infatuated by Dwan, whose annoying-ass monologues both calm and fascinate the Kong himself, and tame his more violent instincts.
Pig ape!
And after Dwan falls into mud, Kong takes her back to a waterfall within the island to wash her and dry her with by literally blowing her.
It's a pretty scene.
And I'm not gonna lie, seeing Jessica Lange in that outfit in water is a nice sight to see. Only because she has a nice rack.
Oh, she's fucking gorgeous. I'm sorry. She's got a great back too. She's got a great bare back.
Oh yes. So anyway, in the meantime, Jack and the first mate of the ship, Carnahan, lead several crew members from the ship into the island to rescue Dwan. But the search party encounters Kong while crossing a log bridge, like in the original, and pissed off by this intrusion, Kong rolls the huge log, sending all but one of this team plummeting to their deaths. Jack and Bone, a guy named Bone, are the only ones
who survive, and Jack tells Bone to get back to the wall, and Jack's going to continue going after Kong. And meanwhile, we have Fred Wilson, who, realizing that the oil is pretty much useless, decides, hey, instead of oil, why not a giant monkey for commercialism? So he brings in an airdrop team to bring in chloroform and construction pieces so they can build a big monkey trap to capture Kong. And I love the dialogue in that scene where, like, Charles Grodin's just like, look at that Exxon campaign. We'll put a tiger in your tank. The Zillions are just a paper tiger.
Yep, it will be great oil. Just as soon as it's done cooking. Well, how much longer will that take? Oh, hardly a tick of the clock, geologically speaking. Let's just say in about 10,000 years.
While you're waiting, you'll get better mileage filling up your Cadillac with mule piss. Oh, I love that guy. I've met that guy, too. He's a really funny guy. Really funny dude.
Anyway, so Kong takes Dwan to his living room, I guess, and starts to undress her with his giant-ass finger, which, boob slip. Not that the guys are complaining, though.
True.
But as this happens, a giant snake appears out of butt-the-fuck nowhere, and attacks Kong, and while distracted, Jack arrives and saves Dwan, and after killing the snake by tearing its jaws open, which is a good kill, but it's anticlimactic as all fuck, Kong chases them back into the village. Well, when he starts chasing after them, it's a really fucking epic scene. He lifts up the snake and just roars into the sky, and he just takes off running.
Well, in the extended cut, they had an alternate take of that where he slammed the snake down and he actually pounded his chest like in the original.
I've never seen the extended version. Probably won't unless it gets a good Blu-ray release, like Jaws: The Revenge. Anyway,
hopefully sometime.
So yes, after killing the snake, Kong chases after them back to the village, and he smashes his way through the huge gates of the wall, which is an awesome scene. Watching him,
that scene's incredible.
It's like he's like a giant Incredible Hulk from the 70s TV show, and he smashes his way through the wall. His arms are in the air, and he's just roaring his lungs out. but then he falls into the pit trap and is overcome by tons and tons of chloroform. So he is out like a light. So Wilson instead decides to salvage the expedition by transporting the like Justin says, or like Mr. Kool-Aid. Oh yeah, hey Kool-Aid. So he transports Kong.
Hey Kong-aid. Oh yeah.
Cool Kong.
No, I'd say Kong-aid.
Anyway, so he takes Kong back to America as some type of promotional gimmick for Petrox, which is really fucking stupid.
And
when
give them major credit. Give them major credit. We actually see them transfer Kong over to New York.
But when they reach New York, Kong is put on display, bound in chains with a large dumbass crown on his head. But when Kong sees a group of the paparazzi pushing and shoving Dwan for interviews, Kong, believing that Dwan is being hurt, breaks free of his cage, and a stampede ensues as panic engulfs this giant crowd, people being crushed and trampled as Kong strides through the crowd, and Wilson, trying to flee, loses his footing and is crushed underfoot by Kong. Though not in the extended version. In the extended version, when Kong's foot comes down, his foot comes up, revealing we only see Wilson's hat.
Exactly, and apparently a lot of people got pissed off about that ending, so they just re-edited it to make it look like he died.
Rightfully so. So Jack and Dwan flee across... hang on a second, my brother is messaging me.
Well, the presentation scene takes place on Roosevelt Island, and basically they have to go across the Queensboro Bridge, and Kong is basically in pursuit of them, and that's where you can immediately cut to the Universal Studios ride and have an amazing attraction there. So Dwan and Jack go into the heart of the city of New York, and Dwan asks Jack to buy her a drink, and he reluctantly agrees, and looking up at the skyline, he notices the World Trade Centers in the background, the Twin Towers, and how he's starting to get deja vu that they look exactly like the pillars, mountains of Kong's Island. So getting that idea, he contacts the government to say, hey, I know where Kong's going, get some helicopters with some nets to capture him, and if you do, and I'll only tell you where he is if you promise not to kill him. So the government obviously lies and says, oh yeah, sure, we won't kill him, and he says, yeah, let him climb to the top of the World Trade Center. So, but then obviously Kong captures Dwan and heads towards the World Trade Center, where he climbs up, and an amazing finale ensues, kind of.
Yep, so Kong climbs to the top of the South Tower of the World Trade Center, where he is attacked by soldiers armed with flamethrowers. He manages to evade them with a spectacular giant leap from one tower to the other, and he rips off pieces from the roof and throws them at the soldiers, killing them when he throws a tank of some type of flammable liquid. I guess it's gas or some shit.
It's a barrel, so I guess it's Donkey Kong.
And we here have the origin of Donkey Kong.
There you go.
Da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Ah!
Exactly.
So anyway, ignoring Jack's request for live capture, military helicopters are sent in to kill Kong. And after ensuring Dwan's safety, Kong fights the helicopters, downing 2 of them. But Dwan desperately pleads for the military to break off, but the pilots continue shooting them. And the relentless barrage of bullets. Bloodshed. He was literally soaking in it. Kong rolls over the edge of the roof, crashing down into the plaza hundreds of feet below. And Dwan rushes down to be there for him, and he watches Kong take his last breath. And an enormous crowd gathers around Kong's body as Dwan is surrounded by photographers. Jack fights his way to get to Dawn, but is stopped short by police as she is surrounded by paparazzi and blood-sucking assholes, despite her cries to him. And that is the plot.
She's officially a star.
Yeah. And that is the plot to King Kong 76. Ultimately, it is pretty similar to the original, but it definitely, in my opinion, is different enough from the original for it to be its own film.
I agree entirely that it only takes the original film story as like a piece of source material in order for it to balance a new story, which was written by Lorenzo Simple Jr., who wrote the 60s Batman show. And that's why you can kind of see how the humor in some aspects of the film
a lot, actually.
doesn't work.
So what are your pros and cons of 76, Jack? Excuse me while I eat a small slice of pizza.
Well, I don't even know if I've pretty much said everything I've had to say about the film in my reviews. I think it is a very solid movie. It is an incredibly beautifully shot film. It's epic. The score is great. There's just, if you guys want to just go see what I think of it, just go watch my review. I've also explained what the problems are. I agree that some of the humor does not work. Some of the tone is a little off, especially with the kind of creepy Kong, I will admit.
Yeah, like
very
the...
over-sexualized. It is very over-sexualized, and that's mostly due to the fact that it was the 70s.
Yeah, especially with the Deep Throat reference, because Deep Throat was still a popular film at the time.
Well, I still think that Dwan at the time was like the director who got her on the yacht that exploded. They were going to shoot porn in Singapore. That's what it was basically going for, is they were going to go shoot porn. But essentially, there's that. I will admit, the lack of dinosaurs does make it a tad bit dry in some areas. But again, it was in defense of it. They were trying to focus on a love story. I do admit, I wish we had the extended cut, because it does show a little bit more, a few cooler scenes. Like, for example, there is a scene in Kong's Rampage where he takes a car and tosses it into a building. And I don't know.
We also see Dwan showering.
What was that?
We also see Dwan showering.
Well, the movie it's a product of its time, and as much as it, like, some people think it doesn't hold up, and some people think, oh, it's corny, it's creepy and everything, I still love the shit out of it. And I think without it, we would not have those two amazing rides at Universal Studios that used to be there in the 80s and 90s. So, and that's another saving grace with the film, is that it just gave birth to the greatest rides ever created by mankind. So, your thoughts, Nick. Your turn. You go for it. I'm ready to hear your rage, your wrath of Kong.
We'll cue the 76 roars.
No, I was just going to cue William Shatner going, Kong!
Kong! Okay, so the pros, there are more pros than there are cons. Oh god, I have an echo.
Don't you mean pros and cons?
That's just unbearably bad.
I know.
Punk ass. So yes, I have more pros than cons. I have, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4. I have 6 pros and 3 cons. So it is definitely more of a positive review, I will say that. So the pros, the characters are pretty solid. The hands down the best character aside from Kong is Jack Prescott, played by the amazing Jeff Bridges. He is a total badass.
Yeah.
He is a total badass. He knows how to think on his feet. He knows how to talk his way out of a nuclear bomb going off. He's very proactive in saving people, especially Dwan, because he has a hard-on for her throughout the entire film. Jeff Bridges just does an absolutely fantastic job as Jack Prescott. In my opinion, he's the best character in the film. The guy who plays...
Actually, fun fact about Jeff Bridges, that he really wanted the part, and it was mostly because he loved the original as a kid. He even faked, when he found out the movie was going to be on TV, he faked being sick from school so he could stay home and watch it.
You wouldn't catch me doing that for a King Kong film. The guy who plays God, what's the
Fred Wilson.
Fred Wilson? Yeah, he is so fun to watch because he's so over the top. He is such an
He's so over the top.
he is such an over the top. He's such an over the top slimy douchebag that all he wants to do is just screw people over so he can make himself look good for his company. And oh my god,
the way he pronounces his dialogue too, like again the scene where he's constructing everything, it's like, all right, move it, men, haul your asses. If we had found oil, we would have had Gulf, Shell, Exxon crawling all over here. Not this one, pal. Kong is all me and Petrax. A Fred S. Wilson exclusive. Picks up the mic. Move your ass, shorty.
Wait till I put the screws in them and I'll just grind them into dust. Yeah. He's awesome.
He just gets so over the top. Fred Wilson is crazy, is he?
I actually would probably have to say his performance is more glorious than Doctor Who from King Kong Escapes.
Oh, yeah, well, no shit, because Doctor Who is a terrible villain. But fucking, but I'm just thinking, what's some other lines? Like, even at the presentation, he's like, hail to the power of Kong!
And Petrax. So yeah, he does a good job.
Over the top. He just looks up at his death is over the top. His mouth is gaping like.
Yeah, he does a good job.
Gordon having a fucking blast with his performance. And it's interesting. He would later go on to be the dad in Beethoven. The first two Beethoven movies.
Still yet to see a single Beethoven film. So moving on, aside from the main three characters, admittedly the rest of the cast is just kind of bland. They're mostly just cannon fodder for them to fill up the cast, but they still do a decent enough job if any of them have dialogue. Excuse me.
Really, the two most I wanted to say the two most recognizable other side characters in the film are obviously Renee Aubrey-Jones as Roy Bagley. Went on to do stuff for Star Trek and other things.
Star shit.
And there's also the guy who plays Perko. I think his name's I forget his name, but the guy who plays Perko ended up playing General Zod's henchman in Superman 2.
Garbage.
And the other character, Captain Ross, the commander of the Petrox Explorer, was also previously in the film Earthquake.
Garbage. Nah, I'm just kidding.
Okay.
Earthquake's not bad. So moving on. Pro number 2 is that the acting overall, except for one character, is pretty decent. Actually, no, it's not decent. It's good. I mean, Fred Wilson, he's over the top. It's so funny. He's over the top. He's so over the top. It's hilarious. Jeff Bridges does a really good job. And a lot of the side characters, they give decent performances. Pro number 3 is that this movie is fantastically paced, in my opinion. It's slow when it needs to be slow. It's moderately paced when it needs to be moderately paced. And it's kind of fast when it needs to be. There's never really a dull moment when it comes to this movie, in my opinion.
I agree. I will admit, though, the extended cut, because they had to stretch it to 3 hours, it does feel a little bit more, like, kind of slower paced, especially the first half.
Oh,
but
yeah,
once you
no
get
doubt.
to the extended stuff with Kong, it's still great.
Pro number 4, the monster action, what kind of little of it there is, it's all really good. Kong's rampage throughout New York City is, in my opinion, so much better than the original 33 version.
The train scene, hands down, holy shit! It's
Michael
great.
Bay.
Like, it's models. That's what I like about it. It uses models. It uses slow motion cameras to make it more to make Kong look bigger. The lighting, everything about that scene is phenomenal.
Oh yes, absolutely. And seeing I'll say that for special effects, but yeah. And also, as generic as it is, Kong's fight with the snake, even as short as it is, it's kind of fun too. And all the stuff that Kong does on the island, it's a lot of fun to watch too.
I like the extended fight scene with him and the snake because there's more shots and everything that are added.
Pro number 5 is that the special effects for this movie, overall, they are really, really solid. Except for a couple of hiccups, which I'll get to momentarily. But Kong this time is a man in a suit, which this is the first time we've seen a Kong in America that was a man in a suit. Not counting the English. Actually, no, that's not really true. Because we did get the American
Well, you're not
versions of
counting
both.
shit like Mighty Gorga and Conga and all that horse shit.
Yeah, but Gorga and Konga are both pieces of garbage. But this is the first time we actually see a good-looking Kong suit. Because this Kong actually looks like a gorilla.
Especially given the fact that the Toho films previously were utter garbage, and this was just like, I think even Toho was like, we are so jealous of this suit, we want to use it in like a Godzilla vs. Kong remake.
Yeah, which I still to this day admittedly kind of wish that was made, but I really wanted to see Godzilla vs. Mechanic Kong, but whatever.
Well, think about that, like Godzilla 84 versus Kong 76. Holy shit.
The Kong suit they use in this movie, it is very, very well constructed. Kong is mostly bipedal in this. Actually, no, he's always bipedal in this movie. But to me, that is the image of Kong that I see. Like this, like the Kong Skull Island version of Kong for me is the perfect version of Kong. He's bipedal. He doesn't walk on all fours. He's more like a human-esque, gorilla-esque hybrid thing. But here is probably the best thing before Kong Skull Island. I mean, Lives ruins it. Kongo 5 looks great because it's more realistic, but that's still not my flavor of Kong. Carter Jones said
that Kong himself is played by the incredibly talented Rick Baker.
Yes, Rick Baker, in my opinion, is probably the greatest special effects makeup guy in existence. Better than Tom Savini, better than Jack Pierce, better than Greg Nicotero. Nobody, in my opinion, has beaten Rick Baker, especially when it comes to apes and werewolves. Nobody does apes and werewolves.
It's interesting too, because like he ended up winning an Oscar for shit like Gorillas in the Mist, which is hands down some of his best ape suits because it combined that with real gorillas, and the same thing with the remake of Mighty Joe Young. So he's pretty much worked on 2 Kong remakes.
He also did the makeup for the Tim Burton Planet of the Apes, which is probably the only good thing you can say about that film.
Oh yeah, God yeah, fuck that movie.
But he also did the werewolf effects for the An American Werewolf in London, which he won an Academy Award for Best Special Effects.
That was his first one, actually.
Yep. So yeah, Rick Baker does a phenomenal job as Kong in this film. And the only hiccup, the models for New York City when Kong's going on a rampage are very well constructed and very well detailed. They definitely give Toho for the 80s and 90s Godzilla series a run for their money, in my opinion. The only hiccups in this movie that kind of bug me are the composite shots. There's a lot of composite shots in this movie. One of them that really sticks out to me is I think it's the log scene where there's a composite shot of Kong and Kong is transparent. You can see through the compositing of Kong.
Really? What shot is that? I've never noticed that before.
It's the scene where the camera is facing down. You see, I think it's a downward shot, and Kong is standing in the foreground. You can see his back, the back of his head, and the back of his neck. Kong is transparent. You can see through him, literally.
Is that the scene where he's trying to nab Jeff Bridges in the little cave?
It might be.
Okay, I'll have to recheck that. I've never noticed that before. And let's not forget the incredible score by John Barry.
I'll get to that in just a second. But overall, the special effects are really, really solid. The only thing that doesn't hold up are the composite shots, because a lot of them, they're very 70s. And if you have a composite shot that's transparent, you know you're fucking up somewhere. And the last
this came out a year, like a few months before Star Wars.
And the last pro that I have for here is the music score by John Barry is fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. I believe one of the Academy Awards for this movie was for Best Soundtrack. Well earned.
I'm not too sure. I'll have to look into that. But John Barry, he was also known for creating the 007 theme.
Yeah, but I don't give 2 shits about that.
He he did the score for The Incredibles. I think at some point he was hired to do the score.
That
for
explains
The
a
Incredibles.
lot. That explains a lot, actually, because a lot of the music for The Incredibles sounds like it's right out of a James Bond movie.
Well, he was going to do it, but I think he passed away, and then it was handed over to Michael Galancio.
Yes, this movie won an Academy Award for Best Sound.
Sound design, yeah, and it goes credit to the sound engineers. And not to mention, Kong is voiced. Most of the vocals were done by the legendary Peter Cullen, who is known
Optimus
to voice
Prime.
Optimus Prime. Exactly.
And also Kong's roar in this film is a stock dinosaur roar, but here I think aside from Kong Skull Island, these are the best. Well, Kong 05's roars are good too, but that's just because they're gorilla roars. The dinosaur roars for Kong in this movie, they're very, very fitting in my opinion. Just Kong's roar in this movie is really good. And overall, this movie's soundtrack is very, very, very good. It's big and bombastic when it needs to be, but it's also sweet and romantic when it needs to be. And overall, it's a very, very solid score. And I think Akira Ifukube should have...
anytime the organ's brought in, it sounds great. When the organ kind of creeps in.
And I think if Toho ever did a standalone Kong film in the 80s and 90s, Akira Ifukube should have really taken some notes from this film if he was to do the music score for it.
Now, question: cinematography. Can we give credit? It looks beautiful.
Oh yeah, I'll count that as a 7th pro. Pro number 7 is that this movie has very beautiful cinematography. Mostly the stuff on the island, I'm not gonna lie, because it is Kauai. Kauai is a very beautiful island to look at. And the cinematography is very good. There's a lot of wide, sweeping shots that show off the landscape. When Kong is stalking about the island, there's a lot of wide shots. There's a lot of big background shots. It's a bad composite shot, but when Kong walks past a waterfall, it's a very pleasant thing to look at. And overall, this movie is beautifully shot.
I want to say a funny thing about that scene. The camera guy who went, I think, to like Costa Rica or something to get the waterfall shots. He went there and he was scheduled to be there for a couple of days, but he didn't show up for 2 weeks. Everybody thought he was dead. Like, everybody thought he went missing for 2 weeks, and he didn't come back. And he came back and he said, "Yeah, sorry, I got caught up, but here's this amazing footage of these waterfalls." So.
Was that a Fall of the Roman Empire case where there was somebody who's going to go out doing a bunch of location scouting, supposed to be there for 2 weeks, but he was there for 6 months because he was fucking a bunch of hookers?
Some shit. I have no idea. It was the 70s, probably. I'm not too sure. Everybody was fucking each other in the 70s, so it was the decade of peace and love, man. Decade of peace and love.
Yeah. Boom, boom. So let's get on to my cons with King Kong 76. I only have 3. But for me, they're pretty significant. 1, there's no goddamn dinosaurs in this movie. And that may sound like a bit of a fanboy issue, but for me, Kong has got to fight dinosaurs, goddammit. I'm not interested.
I mean, I will admit that the fact that there's no dinosaurs in it is a bit of a bug. And the reasons for it was because Dino De Laurentiis and the special effects crew thought that dinosaurs would just not work. It would be too impractical to do, because the only way to do it back then was really stop motion. That was the high class art. And even Jim Danforth, who was going to do the Kong movie for Universal, they were going to use stop motion on that. And even Universal said, "Yeah, we don't want to do stop motion. We want to do men in suits." So, but you look at films from that era, like things like The Land That Time Forgot, which, while the dinosaurs really do look fake, for the time, even though they're hand puppets, they look phenomenal. I mean, I was fooled because I remember seeing footage from that when I was a kid, and I'm like, those look like real dinosaurs to me. So I think from a child's perspective, they would look good if they had improved kind of the puppetry of using dinosaurs in this film.
Okay, so, but still, my biggest problem, or not my biggest problem, I don't like the fact that there is no dinosaurs, because it kind of leaves the island feeling almost pointless. Like, what? Or not really pointless. It's kind of hard for me to describe, but having no other creatures on this island except for a dumbass giant snake, just yeah, I think you put it best. It makes the stuff on the island feel a bit dry. It's like there's nothing else for us to see. There's nothing exciting, nothing else exciting for us to see. We don't really feel any sense of threat for the remaining humans on the island because all they have to deal with is Kong.
Well, the other issue is too. The thing is too is that when the script writers and De Laurentiis were going for more realism, because like I think obviously because we have gorillas still in today's world, you could believe the idea that there might be some overgrown gorillas out there. But because dinosaurs goes more into the fantasy, so I can, and they wanted to focus on the love story, so I can't understand their reasonings for it. But yeah,
Here's the
there is a
thing,
part of me
though.
that's like, I wish there were dinosaurs.
Here's the thing, though. I don't fucking care if they wanted to go more realistic. I want dinosaurs or some other monsters for Kong to fight, goddammit. Anyway, moving on. Con number 2 is why the fuck does Kong have to fucking die?
Because they wanted to remain true to the original. It's kind of the tragic beauty killed the beast. That's the whole story essentially. That the beast has to die to protect his love. It makes it more sad.
And that's another thing. I don't fucking care if they want to remain faithful to the original. They build Kong up to be an actual character, to be an actual sympathetic character. And when you force the audience to get attached to him, just like Dwan does. And in the end, you just treat... Okay, my Aunt Terry puts it best. I'm going to try to paraphrase her. Kong is treated like a zoo animal. He's taken from his home forcibly into captivity where he does not want to be. And when he gets loose, because he is an animal and he's reacting the same way any other animal would when it's in captivity, is that it's afraid and it's gonna react violently if necessary, and they just treat it like an escaped zoo animal and they just kill him. Why not just recapture him and take him back home? No, they have to kill him. And that's my issue with this movie, and it's my biggest issue. Actually, it's my only issue with Kong 05.
No, I think again, it just goes to like I guess to quote Jeff Bridges, well, that's just your opinion, man. I guess I think because they wanted to remain true to the original, and all the other films wanted to remain true to the original. It's just the fact that is the story of Kong, is that he becomes, a tragic hero in a sense.
And that's the thing. I'll say this again. I don't fucking care. Moving on. Con number 3 is Jessica Lange. God damn. Holy motherfucking shit. Jessica Lange is so goddamn annoying in this fucking movie. There are some scenes in this movie where it is almost unbearable for me to sit through. Particularly in most of her scenes in the first half. When she gets off the island during Kong's rampage in New York, that's when she's good. Because she's actually acting her ass off. But everything before that, she is garbage. Utter garbage.
Let me put it like this: is like I think from your perspective, what you're thinking is she looks the part, she doesn't act the part. Physically, she looks great. Acting wise, not so much. That's what you're going for, right? That's what you're kind of getting at.
I suppose, but honestly, I wasn't really focusing on her looks.
Oh, of course. But here's the thing. The way I can describe Dwan's character to most people is she's essentially a giddy, somewhat horny Japanese schoolgirl, in a sense, at least in the first half. The first 2/3, she's pretty much a giddy schoolgirl the whole time. You know, she's wanting to explore more and shit. So, but I will admit, maybe the reason I think what I do like, especially with her in the third act, is that maybe it's because she's matured more. She's actually went through a huge experience that's changed her life, and now she's matured more in that sense, and that's why she's so good in the third act.
Yeah, I definitely do agree with that. She is really good in the third act, but everything before that, she's garbage. Oh my god. Probably the most unbearable scene from Dwan in this movie is her first rambling monologue with Kong when they go deeper inside the island. I'm a Taurus. I bet you're a Virgo or some shit like that. Oh my.
No, it's she's like, I'm a Libra. What sign are you? Oh wait, no, don't tell me. I bet you're an Aries, aren't you? Of course you are. I just knew it. I think it's just wonderful.
I'm gonna smack you.
See, that's how much I know this movie. I know all the dialogue from this film.
Oh, god damn, she's annoying.
Such a nice ape, such a sweet monkey. You know, they're gonna be great friends.
You know, I may actually take up on shaving your ass.
Have you ever met anyone before whose life was saved by deep throat?
Okay.
Well, again, it's the dialogue. It was 70s cheese dialogue. This is coming from the guy who wrote the Batman show. This is the same motherfucker who wrote all of Burt Ward's puns. Holy Sharknado Batman! Holy Macaroni Batman! Same guy.
Oh my god, I think Robin predicted the Sharknado movies.
Holy Sardines!
Holy molars. Am I ever glad I take good care of my teeth?
Exactly.
So moving on. That's all I really have to say about King Kong 76. It's not a bad movie in any stretch of the imagination, and I actually do think it is one of the better remakes out there. But it does have some pretty significant flaws, and for me, I mean, it's not one of my absolute least favorite movies of all time, and there are a lot. I do enjoy the film. In fact, my dad enjoys watching this movie because he was 6 years old when this movie came out, so it was a big thing for him. But overall, it's not one of my favorite Kong films. I don't watch it nearly as much as I used to, which is why I'm going to rate it a 7 out of 10. It's not bad. It's actually quite good in some areas, but it's not great. In fact, I would actually say it's a bit blah in some areas. But still, 7 out of 10.
Why don't you rate it a 7.6 out of 10?
Okay, I really am going to take up the shaving of your ass. And I will cut it off and shove it down your throat.
No.
So, do you still give it a 10 out of 10 rating?
I still give it a 10 out of 10 rating. I understand it has problems, but I say fuck it and I ignore the problems. It's a piece of 70s cinema. It came out in that 3-year hit span of 3 of my favorite films with Jaws and Star Wars. This one was dab in the middle. I still think it's an epic piece of filmmaking. Without it, we wouldn't have the likes of those King Kong rides and shit. The score is brilliant. The effects are great. It's still my favorite film, and it's pretty much on par with the original, in my personal opinion.
Well, I will also say this. I definitely do enjoy this movie more than the original. Though, even though this movie has no dinosaurs in it, that may surprise some people.
That's true.
So that'll do it for my video on Kong 1976. And god damn you for making me have to watch this movie's next installment. Join me next time.
Go ahead, what?
Join me next time, Jackson Knights, as I look at the sequel that nobody gives two shits about, to quote James Rolfe. When I look at Dino De Laurentiis' King Kong Lives from 1986.
And to close off this video, Nick, if you go to your Facebook page, I have a little present for you.
Oh, Jesus. I'm going to do that. You're going to see my live reaction. Oh, shit. Oh, damn. You fucker. You fucker. You fucker. God damn you.
Happy Wolfgang!
God fucking damn you. I don't want to watch and review this fucking film. Dr. Wolfula, where are you? Why can't you just do it for me? God damn it. I don't want to. I don't want to. God damn it. I don't want to. I'm gonna cut you off. You better shut the fuck up.
Okay.
Don't want to do it. I'd rather watch Son of God. I'd rather watch Godzilla's Revenge 10 times in a row.
Oh, fuck off! It's not that bad.
I'd rather watch King Kong versus Godzilla.
Just shut up and watch the movie.
I'd rather watch Atragon.
You'd rather watch my remake.
No, I actually would not.
God damn it!
So moving on. Join me next time as he and I tackle the forgettable sequel, King Kong Lives. I guess post your comments down below. Let me know what you think. Hit the like button. Hit the subscribe button. Share this video with your friends. Go to Jack's channel, Big Jack Film Studios. Check out his King Kong reviews and check out a couple videos that he's gonna have up in the future. Involving him and I.
Thanks for having me, man. I really appreciate you letting me come on and discuss my favorite film, even though you're not the biggest fan of it.
I'd rather watch this movie than King Kong Lives.
Dude, it's not. Just shut up and go
God
watch it.
damn it. God fucking damn it. I don't want to. I don't fucking want to.
God damn it!
I don't fucking want to. Alrighty, so share this video with your friends. And as always, go try to track down some oil deposits. Find out it's crap and then bring a giant monkey back to New York City. Why don't you? But this time, can you just capture him and bring him back to his island and just forget about him, please? And I will see you in the next video.